A very good morning to one and all who have
Good morning.
registered for today's oration. As we all know, today is World Environment Day, and the theme for this Environment Day is ecosystem restoration. This theme begins from today and is going to last a decade because the need to preserve biodiversity is very, very important. In this context, what is the significance of ecosystem is something that everyone wonders, and this cannot be better explained than at the present when we have the corona pandemic sweeping the world. The biological ecosystem is very intimately connected with human health, and for this reason, the word One Health has become the buzzword. One Health includes human health, animal health, the environment health, which includes the plant health as well, which comes very much under that. And whenever there is a disturbance in any one of them, we find the impact on the other. I have the pleasure to have this morning with us our Vice Chancellor, who at the helm of this university has done a lot for green initiatives. He has also worked very hard to see the ecosystem restoration. Now, I will, of course, briefly introduce him after giving you a brief about the ecology, the importance of today, and why we chose this particular topic for our oration, for our webinar. We always called it webinar, but when there is a significance of a day like the World Environment Day, we prefer to use the word oration, and that is why I have the pleasure of having Dr. Meena Kumari, a person who has headed the highest body for biodiversity under the Ministry of Forestry, and of course, climate change, here with us today. As regards the significance of today, I wish to inform every person who has registered that this is not a topic which is for any one individual. It is for every human who inhabits the planet. Then I say there are other forms of life that inhabit the planet, and together we have to see that this balance is very delicately maintained for the betterment of human sustenance. Sustenance of the human being depends on a lot of issues. If there are climate change, we have often heard how it is the environmental disturbance, such as maybe deforestation, that results in the climate change and vice versa, and they in turn impact health of animals, the plants, or humans. Corona times have been very, very tragic, but also a lot of lessons for the human race. We know that most of the pandemics have been due to zoonotic issues, organisms which are transferred from animals and have reached human and spread. Some words have become a household name. We've heard about the avian flu, we've heard about the swine flu, we've also been all the time hearing about MERS, SARS. All of these have come from animals. Now, why does this happen? If the habitat of animals is disturbed and there is shrinkage that takes place of the environment, we find that in order to find their own livelihood in a way for themselves, continue their life, they tend to affect any other form of life that comes along. For instance, rabies is a disease of the wild animals. When does it come to the pets, which we are very familiar with, and therefore vaccinate our animal? It is because if the animals have been disturbed from their forest, bats included, they come to the neighborhood where your pet animals are there, domesticated animals are there, or animals that are just loitering around, which may not be any one property, and they in turn spread to the household pets, and then humans become affected with the bite of a dog or so. Corona is no different. And we are now in a very exciting time where we are looking at a man-made virus. Now, why all this happens? Science can be for the good of life, or it can result in devastation. Having said a little bit about all this, and to let you know about the interconnection, the transdisciplinary relatedness between every form of life, we are into a very important topic today, of which we think we know, but we know very little. We are in a medical institution, a health university. We also have research centers. How many of us really know what is an act, what is a rule? And to educate all of us, we have with us a specialist. Now, before I tell you more about Dr. Meena Kumari, the guest for today, let me first introduce our Vice Chancellor. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari, is an educationist, a medical doctor, a researcher, and most importantly, an environmentalist too. When we look at his passion for the environment, it is only in the fitness of things that we had someone like him to deliver the opening remarks, not just because he is the head of the institution, head of the university, but also because of his passion for some of the topics that we have been discussing in the last few seminars, webinars, and today is no exception. An otorhinolaryngologist, in common parlance, an ENT surgeon by profession, he began his early career of medical education in Mysore University and then proceeded for his post-graduation to Davangere, following which he returned to Mangalore, his hometown, and joined the Kasturba Medical College. After rising through the ranks of assistant professor through to professor, he joined the Nitte group of institutions, specifically the K.S. Hegde Medical Academy, as head of the department, and rose to become the vice dean and then the dean of the medical college. From there on, there was no looking back. And it is really, of course, I should say, a pleasure that when a person goes through all the ranks, they really learn completely about an institution in order to be able to deliver the best to that institution in a holistic fashion. Presently, he's been the Vice Chancellor, but an avid researcher as well. And there is not a topic that he doesn't enjoy listening to or asking people to work on. Sir, we are extremely pleased to have you. And before I introduce our guest for the day, I would like you to deliver your opening remarks on this occasion. Thank you for making time to be amidst your busy schedule. Please, sir. Yes.
Very good morning. Thank you, Indrani, for the introduction. Very distinguished guest for the day, Dr. Meena Kumari, the former chairperson of National Biodiversity Authority, one of the highest body in restoration of biodiversity. Idya Karunasagar, Dr. Smita Hegde, who is spearheading our Green Initiative project at the university, and all my colleagues from Nitte University. It's indeed my privilege to be part of this webinar conducted by our very prestigious department of DST Technology Enabling Center in the university. Today morning, as I said in the beginning, before the starting of this webinar, that we had we celebrated the World Environment Day by planting trees in the campus. I'm very glad to tell you that Madam Meena Kumari, our university is really doing a lot of work on making the university green and also using alternative energy for preservation of energy and reducing the pollution of the environment. When a few years back, our green coverage was around 18%. Now I'm very glad to tell you that it's gone up to 24%. Our ambition is to make the campus carbon neutral. In this endeavor, already we have bought another 100 acres of campus land for the university, where we are going to make a state-of-the-art campus with only 40% will be covered with the buildings, 60% will be for water bodies and green forestry and plants and green initiative will be fully implemented in that campus. Regarding today's oration, I was told by Indrani that Meena Kumari is going to deliver talk about Biodiversity Act 2002. The theme of this World Environment Day is ecosystem restoration. I think we should compliment the nature for indirectly bringing the restoration of ecosystem, even though it is very unpleasant that or we are going through an unprecedented situation of the century in the form of COVID-19. COVID-19 has taught us a lot of lessons, and among them it has done good thing by reducing the environmental pollution, and it improved the quality of water, and it has reduced the noise pollution. I think it has done indirectly. It has shown us some path what we can do and how we can reduce the environmental pollution so that the mankind will be enjoying the fruits of this nature. And but unfortunately, what's happening is whatever, even if you gained something in the last 12 months, the effect of the COVID-19 is going to come in a different form. I am very afraid of the things what is going to happen in the form of biomedical waste. I think it has been seen to see that all our masks, the disinfectants and PP is being thrown everywhere, and is definitely going to pollute the environment. And I'm afraid that we may have to face some other pandemic which has been produced by this type of pollution. I think we have to be very careful about that. So this year's theme, ecosystem restoration, it's not only meant for giving green initiative or giving importance to biodiversity, also to take note of this, what's happening due to the biomedical waste generated due to COVID-19. And as to, I think the madam will be deliberating on that, particularly the biodiversity, very close to our heart. I think both for Kerala and Karnataka, we have bestowed with the Western Ghats, and we are proud to tell you that particularly our district, Dakshina Kannada district, is very close, nearer to the Western Ghats. It's one of the biodiversity hotspots the world, and I'm very proud to tell you that in spite of all assaults on the nature, our district could maintain a lot of biodiversity in the form of Western Ghats, and we got more than, I understand that more than 15,000 different species of plants, both flowering and non-flowering plants and trees in this area, and a lot of different species of mammals, amphibians, insects, and even freshwater fishes. I think very distinct to this particular Western Ghats. I think we were, by God's, I think we have been endowed or bestowed with this Western Ghats. And also, it's one of the important aspect of the monsoon, which is really now we are enjoying that monsoon season in this particular area, and we get more than 350 inches of rain in this area. All this because of the Western Ghats, and I think UNESCO is recognized as one of the hotspots of the world. And Madam may be enlightening us with her, particularly even though it's late, the year 2002, Government of India came out with the Biodiversity Preservation Act. I think that's very, very important. That's one of the reasons we could save our Western Ghats and the vegetation in this particular area, this part of the world. And I hope the talk by our very distinguished personality in the biodiversity, Professor Meena Kumari, Dr. Meena Kumari will be delivering very important lecture, oration today. And all my colleagues, particularly from the area of Green Initiative and the members of the NU-TEC and our Biological Sciences Department will enjoy this talk. And let us take a very important message from her talk and try to implement in our campus also. And I am positive about implementation all the regulations which have been enacted by the Government of India and state governments. And I assure you that university will extend all cooperation for implementing this act whenever it is applicable to us. I wish you all the best. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, indeed, for that opening remarks, which reflects the way we are going to move in the next few minutes. It is in the fitness of things that I explain to all our registrants and others who are online what an eminent personality we have today for the topic Biodiversity Act 2002. Now, one may wonder, we are in 2021 and what are we talking about 2002? Well, when did we first realize that we needed to have such an act? And it was only in 2004 that it became implemented. But the foundation of it was laid in 2002, and she will talk a lot about it. Dr. Meena Kumari is, in a way, you can say, the only lady that I know of who has carved a niche for herself in fields that not many would dare to tread. A marine biologist, yes, but she broke the silos that exist in research between animal health, human health, environmental health, bringing together the basis of all of this, and that is in the biodiversity and also in the challenges, hence the topic for today. Dr. Meena Kumari, of course, she retired recently as the chairperson, which is the highest position a person occupies in the biodiversity board. And as a chairperson, she, I think, brought in and educated a lot of us who are from different fields what all of this means. But before occupying this kind of a position, she was the Deputy Director General of Fisheries of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. And in that capacity, for me, she was someone to look up to in everything that universities and central institutes were doing. She was the only woman until then, and even now I don't see in the next few years any woman being there of that caliber to hold that position. And as the Deputy Director General, she took the reins of managing the fisheries in the entire country, ably supporting the Director General. She, of course, before that, with about 35 years of a checkered career at the Central Institute of Fisheries Technology in Cochin. She rose from the ranks of a scientist to become a senior scientist, because these are the stages in which it happens in a central research institute, and then became the principal scientist, and soon after the director of the Central Institute of Fisheries Technology in Cochin. But more importantly, it is for all of us, I think, to know that she had her expertise in the field of fishing technology. Fishing technology is a field where you have to be in the mid-sea. You have to design gears. You have to have eco-friendly methods of catching fish. You have to also, in her own capacity, where, of course, she was a proponent of gender mainstreaming. Apart from that, she was involved very actively in many areas related to fisheries. And of course, when she became the Deputy Director General, she had to coordinate the work of different divisions related to fisheries. But the word that I spoke a little before on One Health implies that as you rise up the ladder, you become more and more broad in your vision, and you see that you have to bring together all of the fields. And therefore, in my own interaction with her, it was always related to diseases among the cultured animals, fishery animals like shrimps, developing vaccines, looking at eco-friendly ways of culturing, not disturbing the environment. So there were a whole lot of areas, because she herself in her research focused on, apart from gear technologies, on pollution monitoring. She looked at actually ways to reduce the marine pollution. Now, it is important, of course, with such a vast, I should say, excellent career, that she had to be bestowed with awards. They are very large in number. It begins usually at a very young age. And she was the recipient of the Young Scientist Award of the Kerala State Council of Technology, Science and Technology. But that really shows that one has the potential to go above. So awards really are no measure of what you're doing, but it's like a pat on the back to tell you have the capability to do more. And she never looked back. She won a series of awards in her career. The Punjab Rao Deshmukh Award as the Excellent Woman Scientist of ICR. There are so many of them. Really, when I read her profile, because I know it for a long, long time, I really wonder if some of the smaller awards are really worth mentioning now or not, because she was bestowed the Doctor of Science degree by Vidyasagar University for her innovations. But it is important also to let you know that she won the Marie Curie Award and also the Innovator Award. Now, these awards are very, I should say, important in the present context when the country is talking about innovations all the time, research innovations. So here was a person who, of course, came up her career with all these awards through research, but throughout she also had the ability to build her caliber as an administrator, and therefore holding the top positions in the country and leading them ably is something that she developed over the years. Madam, we appreciate very much your outreach activities. We are also very happy that you have been, even now, working with preservation of bioresources and advising people, because at this stage of your career, that is very important. We all realize that what we need to really tell the younger generation is what it means to really not work in silos, but come together and look at plant, animal, environment, and of course, the health of all of this together, because each one impacts the other. And therefore, when we talk about fisheries, we know any disturbance in the climate change, any human activity is disturbing, impacts fisheries, and how we can go about doing this kind of inter and multidisciplinary work so that we preserve the environment, with biodiversity being the bottom line. We cannot afford to disturb, because we have the experience of one pandemic, and it is known that even future pandemics are going to probably come from the zoonotic sources. And therefore, we need to see that we don't disturb the natural habitat of many of the animals that would probably then transmit to the humans. So in trying to save planet, we have to, in fact, try to save ourselves first on this planet by not disturbing other life forms. Madam, I'm very, very happy that, though, of course, you're my very good friend, you have been a mentor when you were in all those positions. I'm grateful that you accepted our invitation to be here and to educate us all on what biodiversity is all about. Being a health institution, health university, it's also important for us to look at it from the biomedical perspective. But we cannot, as I already mentioned, separate, say, plant biodiversity from health biodiversity issues. They are all interconnected. I would be very grateful now to hand over the podium or the floor to Dr. Meena Kumari. You are all eagerly awaiting her address. And Madam, thank you very much. My colleague, Dr. Smita, could not sign in. Otherwise, she would have led very ably all of what I have just managed to say, because I was not supposed to say many of the things from my just knowledge I have said about the topics on which you will be speaking. Thank you very much, Madam. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Indrani. I think you have made a very lengthy introduction. I was not expecting this. I think all those, what was told, I do agree that I have occupied many positions and all, no, but I always remained in my heart of heart as a researcher and somebody who would like to help others in whatever, or maybe in whatever small way I could do. So when Dr. Indrani called me that on June 5th we may have to have a small webinar, and also uh, rather than talking more about environment, we will just enlighten the students as well as the academia on the Biological Diversity Act, and I think even now the awareness is not that big. So I was very glad to accept that, because after I superannuated from the NBA, that is the National Biodiversity Authority, I used to go to even schools, colleges, universities, and research institutions just to spread the message that we have an act like this. And since we are all signatory to what for CBD, that is the Convention of Biological Diversity, so we have a small ability, or maybe we have to be able to tell other to the world that we are abiding by the treaty, or maybe we are abiding by the act. So which I thought it is necessary. And there are a lot of confusion also. When I was there in the authority, I also could just clarify some of the, because since it is an act, for making modifications you have to go to the parliament. So then there is a biological diversity rules which the authority and the ministry could make changes, or maybe amend it, or make it easier for people to abide. So that we were doing. And even now the act is under, I mean, there is a committee which is looking into modification, so that no people find it easier to abide with. So with this introduction, I think I have prepared a presentation which I will be giving it to Dr. Indrani, which you all can go through it, and then anytime you have a query, either you can I have given the address of National Biodiversity Authority also, so that you can directly contact them, or maybe in case you need a small clarification, I am always at your disposal, that you can ask anytime. So with this small introduction, greetings on the World Environment Day, that is June 5th. For me, environment means ecosystem, biological resources, human being, everything is the environment. So I think it is very apt to talk on the biological resources and how to conserve it. because we all have a moral duty that what we are enjoying now, at least in the same way, we have to, give it to our future generation also. So I'll go to the presentation. So I think you can ask me questions anytime, or maybe at the end of the speech, you can ask questions also. Once again, thank you, the organizers, for having me in this platform, in this webinar, for just enlightening you on the Biological Diversity Act. I go to the presentation now. Is it come in the full screen?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay, fine, fine. Dr. Indrani, you were telling Biological Diversity Act 2002. Just because it is named as Biological Diversity Act 2002, because this act was presented in the parliament and passed in 2002. So that is why it is called Biological Diversity Act 2002. So I wanted to make it full. So that is why, otherwise it is just BDA, Biological Diversity Act. So I told you World Environment Day. There is no environment without bioresources or people, ecosystem, different ecosystems. So just a brief introduction. That is, it was established in 1972. That is at the Stockholm Conference. As you all know, that every 10 years that there is a UN conference which will be held at least in each country, because countries will come forward to host it, and this was held in Stockholm. So they wanted to say, much before that, this was in 1972, much before that, 1960 itself, people have become concerned about their environment. That time, bioresources or biodiversity was not a question. They were telling that environment degradation, people have were just started getting concerned about the environment. And in 1960 it was in Sweden. So the conference was in Sweden. At that point of time, they wanted that in another 10 years we have to do something, but a long time it has taken. In 1972, because the conference, the thrust was given to human environment, and the UN vehicle for encouraging the awareness and action for the protection of the environment, they wanted to observe one particular day, that is 5th June. And this was proposed in 1972, but it came to existence in 74. The first World Environment Day was held with the theme only one earth, and maybe this was one platform which will raise awareness on environmental issues, anything: marine pollution, human overpopulation, global warming, sustainable consumption, wildlife crime, forest dwellers. So like that, no. So anything which is concerned with the environment, they wanted to do it. And the first was, and every year one theme will be given, and this year's theme is ecosystem restoration. That is why your honorable vice chancellor as well as Indrani was just giving thrust on the ecosystem restoration. And this is also in this particular year, because this meeting will be hosted by Pakistan. And this occasion, you should all be aware that there was a decade. Last time UN decade of biodiversity was there, and this time it was UN decade of ecosystem restoration. So next 10 years, this theme also will be launched on this particular day. So now I was rightly telling about the environment, biological resources, people, ecosystems, different ecosystems. So in this, I think I will talk more about the bioresources or biological resources, biodiversity. and which generally refers to the variety and variability of life on Earth. When the environment becomes dynamic or environment becomes lively, when biological resources are there, and the environment decides who should live there or what all animals or plants should be there. So, and that ecosystem health also decides that this is what is to be present there. And according to the United Nations UNEP, biodiversity measures the variation at the genetic and species level and also at the ecosystem level. I would like to quote the definition which was given in by the United Nations Earth Summit in 1992. They have defined biological diversity as the variability among living organisms from all sources, including or inter alia, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part of, which includes the diversity within the species, between the species, and of the ecosystems. So this is what. So a brief introduction of the 1992 UN Earth Summit also. So I was talking about the Stockholm Summit where the World Environment Day was pronounced. So after 72, in 82, again in Rio de Janeiro, there was a meeting. After 10 years also, they all found out that nothing much has been happened or they could not do much on the ecosystem or maybe environment. So they have made a committee, which means that the committee headed by none other than the Norwegian Prime Minister at that point of time. I'm happy that she was also a lady, Brundtland. So that is called the Brundland Committee. And in 82, the committee was in position and they have taken 5 years to study what is happening or why we should be concerned about the environment, ecosystem, or the bioresources. And they have submitted Brundtland report that to the UN, that was in 87, in which she had made very clear that we have to, because the environment and development, this is always having opposite poles. When development comes, environment will be harmed. So she has told for the development, that is a sustainable development. I think for the first time she used sustainable development or sustainable resources, sustainable environment. And this report formed the major platform or major base for having a Earth Summit. That is after 82, in 92, the United Nations Earth Summit, again it was held in Rio de Janeiro. And this is also called Earth Summit, wherein the treaty was just put forward for signature, which is called the Convention of Biological Diversity. 2 other important provisions were also there. I will talk about it later. And now, just to see the biological resources in the world, insects, that is an inverted pyramid, which I have just wanted to show. When animals, they're much less than the insects which is present there. Then plants, fungi, and also the size of the picture, which will just tell you what is the size or maybe the quantity present in the whole ecosystem. And what determines diversity? Environment. That is very correct that we are talking about environment today. And other than, of course, environment, the health of the environment decides, but other than that, time determines biodiversity. You may be aware that large mammoths, that in Jurassic Park and all, you might have seen mammoths are there, and all these things over a period of time, all these have become extinct. Nothing is available now, or we cannot see even a living animal. So over the time like that, no, many of the species have just vanished from the earth. So time determines biodiversity. There are many reasons for that. We can come to it later. Then ecosystem stability. An ecosystem should be stable. It should have proper, they should decide that proper parameters are present in the ecosystem, and it should be stable so that it can harbor more and more resources or biological resources or animals, plants, and all. No? and productivity. From why to cultivation, India has a huge population. We have to feed all of them. So we wanted more productivity and agrobiodiversity, as rightly now we are talking about, to feed the people. So we wanted to have more of a cultivated land. From wild to cultivated, when we have changed, that also have decided what is the biodiversity present there. And then habitat heterogeneity. Just imagine India is having more than 10 bio-geo-economic zones, which means that you mention anything, whether it is a desert, whether it is a farmland, whether it is a wetland, whether it is an ocean, whether it is a mountainous terrain. So everything is present in India. It has got more than 10 bio-geo-economic zones, and habitat heterogeneity also decides what is present there. And of course, predation. There are a lot of examples which, over predation, when over exploitation. If my background is fisheries, I can also tell that many of the fish which is present, or we will be seeing, or maybe present in abundance, is now becoming depleted just because of the over exploitation. So predation, over exploitation, and also competition, that also decides diversity. And coming to India, India is a mega diversity country. Leave aside the cultural diversity of India, we have a lot of farmlands which has a great diversity in the agro biodiversity is present. Habitat diversity is there. Then plant resources, animal resources, oceanic resources, riverine resources, lot of things. So with all these, and it is a biological hotspots are also present there. 4 of the major hotspots, which is pronounced by the UN, they are present in India. Out of 34 or 35, if I am correct. Then these diverse biological resources present in the country, it is also the genetic resources. This has got a huge associated knowledge also with it, which means that suppose tulsi, a small plant, and what all uses are there. No, this is the traditional knowledge which has been handed over by in generation to generation, and like this, take anything, it has got a knowledge associated with it, and nothing is created new or without a background knowledge to it. And this has got immense potential for production of medicines and food. I underline food because other than we cannot get food other than the bioresources, and also a lot of medicines also come from because you think of the medicinal plants and all, no, and this has immense potential for IPR, that is intellectual property rights, and also improvement of livelihoods, because these biological resources are the basic, because more than 84% of the people around the world, they are directly dependent on the bioresources which is present in the environment. And this biodiversity degradation or environment degradation is not only for India, it is a global challenge. All the forest areas have been now cut and then converted to farmlands, or maybe low-lying lands, which were farmlands, are now being filled, and urban population, that flats are being built there. Forest is being cut and then barren lands are present, or it is burnt also purposely. And pristine rivers have now become, because of the industrial developments and all, it has become polluted, and now no pristine river is there. And of course, oceans are overexploited, and this loss of biodiversity is an irreversible damage. And this is consequent to the consequences are innumerable. And this has just because this is not only in India. I was telling you that this is the threat which the world is facing now, and this has created the formation of the CBD, that is the Convention of Biological Diversity, that is in 1992 Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro. It is also Rio Convention. So 3 treaties were put forward for signature. That is the Convention of Biological Diversity. It is called CBD. Framework Convention on Climate Change, United Nations Convention of Combat of Desertification, and these treaties were put for signature. And India has, like in all other meetings and all, no, India came forward and signed the treaty on 92 itself and ratified in 94, which means that each and every citizen of India binding for abiding this treaty which is there. And now this treaty is very important because no other treaty is signed by so many countries, because almost 196 countries are now signed and almost 140 has been ratified also. And why this CBD was very important? Because you can just see a picture I have given, no, global distribution of biodiversity. The darker areas here, the darker areas are hotspots of biodiversity. See, India, Africa, and South America. These are the places where, and of course, the Malayan archipelago, Indonesia, and all. No? So these are hotspots of biodiversity, and large number of, whether it is animal or plants, the bioresources are available there. And the red spots, which I have shown in the picture, is the number of patents which is taken based on the biological resources. So biological resources are at one corner and patents are being taken at different places, because 80% of the world's biotechnology related patents are owned by either United States, European Union, or Japan. So, which means that time itself, the countries have realized that the bioresources are being freely taken away, or it is being used for commercially used by other countries, and they are taking patents also, and commercial utilization also is taking place. And the other part of the world, or where they harbor the biodiversity, they are deprived of the benefits from coming the patent or commercial utilization. Absolutely, there is nothing like in India. There are a lot of instruments for conservation and sustainable use, and also for protection of biodiversity. Take the Forest Act. This has come into existence before independence. Wildlife Protection also Act has also come before independence. Then Biological Diversity Act 92, that genesis also I'll briefly tell. Then I just given a list, so which I just wanted to tell. I don't want to explain anything about it. Just wanted to tell that there is no dearth of act or treaties or maybe which will support conservation. But and again the series, that is 92 CBD, International Legally Binding Treaty, then Cartagena Protocol, Nagoya Protocol, which very clearly tells you about access and benefit sharing. I will explain what is access and benefit sharing. And all these, almost 196 parties to date, which is near universal. I just wanted to tell you that people have understood the importance, and the people have come forward and signed the treaty, but the implementation, whether it is in India or whether it is in any other countries, it is a challenge. But other countries, previously India was the world leader for this implementation of the biological CBD, that is the Convention of Biological Diversity. But now South America, Brazil, and Philippines, like many other countries have started doing much work on this, and they are coming up. And three main important things are there in CBD, which is conservation, sustainable use. No one tells that you cannot use it, but use it sustainably. And the third provision is the access and benefit sharing. And in the Biological Diversity Act, and rules have come because just to explain certain things and to ease of operation, the biological diversity rules have also come into existence in 2004. So what has happened after 92? Almost 10 years, the academia, scientists, people, NGOs, everybody has started debating on this issue. That is how to conserve our resources, or how to protect our environment, or maybe how to implement this treaty which India has signed in 92. And all these debates have just concluded in just making an act by the parliament, which was placed before the parliament in 2002. I think Professor Swaminathan, like very eminent persons, I think no judge or no lawyer was has been included in these debates and all. But of course, definitely they were part of it. But I think major contribution was from the academia and the scientists and other people who were concerned about it, or maybe people who were using it. And this was placed in the parliament in 2002, and this was passed. So it has become an act. So now the act has to be implemented. So in 2003, the National Biodiversity Authority was formed. National Biodiversity Authority was formed as an apex body in the country under the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, wherein the National Biodiversity Authority was given the charge of just doing or implementing the act in the country. So how it has to be done? So the whole country, and the NBA is a small body. The headquarters is in Chennai. They wanted to create state biodiversity boards. So now, in almost all 29 states, I have written there 28/1+1, because 28 states and 1+1 is Jammu and Kashmir. Because of its special status, there it is not State Biodiversity Board, it is State Biodiversity Council, and Ladakh. Ladakh also has a separate council. So all state bodies are in place. And for state also, they were finding it difficult how to manage all the bioresources or how to implement the act. So they have taken, like how we do the administration from the central to state, at the village level, they wanted to create the biodiversity management committees. Almost it is similar to the village which is formed everywhere. So biodiversity management committees means almost more than 280,000 villages are there. So which is the local body? They will have to know what is present there, and they will also have to decide what is to be shared from them, and also they should have a list telling that these are the bioresources which is present with us, so that we can share it, or maybe we can sell it, or we can make commercial utilization. So as of now, of course, when I took charge, perhaps in 2016, middle, it was a few thousands. The biodiversity management committees in the whole of India, it was very few. But then there was a case also was there, and the judgment also has helped us immediately to start creating, at least on paper. Now we are very glad that 2,72,475 biodiversity management committees are in place. And there you will be also seeing PBR, that is the People's Biodiversity Register. This is where the academia, people, students, everybody has to contribute. The village is also having a register which will tell what are the bioresources present, whatever be it, plants, animals, all those things are, aquatic resources, whatever it is. Now, even now, it is only 2,56,030. That is the number of PBRs now, because in the nearby villages, the resources will be the same, but still the village has to own a biodiversity register. That is how it is formed. Now, as I was telling, the biological diversity also has three main principles, the same as in CBD: conservation, sustainable use, access and benefit sharing. So why access and benefit sharing? You will be a scientist, engineer, perhaps a doctor, or maybe high-ranking official, that civil servant. There are common people in the world, but everybody, at the end of the day, they have to go back to their house and have a plate of food, which will come from bioresources only. You cannot eat plastic, you cannot eat chemical chemical things which is produced. So now I just wanted to emphasize there are people in the world who are hungry, and God cannot appear before them other than in the form of a food. So almost 75% of people who die out of hunger, they are children. And that is why the CBD and the access and benefit sharing philosophy has come. That is, access any genetic resources in exchange for fair and equitable sharing of benefits derived from their utilization. That is commercial utilization or anything which will contribute to conservation of the biodiversity and sustainable use of its components. So Nagoya Protocol also emphasizes on this. So this is the basis, that is access and benefit sharing. Those who access for what? Food, conservation, plant breeding. Without that, we cannot just feed the whole population. Then, of course, survey, biosurvey. There are many species which is not even named or described. So taxonomy, the people do research on that. And health and pharmaceuticals. You access bioresources for traditional use, for medicines, traditional medicines you access, and industrial biotechnology. For all these, biodiversity is fundamental to technological innovations. And just you will be wondering when you see the market share of biodiversity dependent sectors. Huge, it is huge. Across the world, 328 billion for pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, more than 100 billion public company alone, and then agriculture, seed production, food products, herbal products, personal care. You will have a lot of creams. No, everybody will like to have creams, not when it is a chemical, but when it is organic, people would like to have. So for anything and everything, the biological resources are being used. So that is why the Biological Diversity Act is there to protect or maybe support or implement the use of the biological resources. It has got a small regulation of access of biological diversity, and there are 12 chapters and 65 sections. Uh, why we wanted to have the biological diversity across the world? Till 92, when the CBD was, or maybe the treaty was signed, CBD treaty was signed by the countries, it was all common heritage of mankind. Anything and everything. You could take from one place to another, you can take from one country to other. It is common heritage. Whatever present in the nature was a common heritage of mankind. But from 92 onwards, it has become the sovereign rights of a country. So, to protect the sovereign rights of India and over her bioresources, the Biological Diversity Act support for it. I am not telling that it is a hindrance or anything. It is supporting for protecting the sovereign rights of India. And also, this is for stopping the misappropriation of biological resources and associated knowledge, which is taken from one place to another without the knowledge of the people or maybe the authority or without the knowledge of the country, which is called the biopiracy. So, to stop that. And that is why you are regulating the access, whether it is a biological resource or associated knowledge, to ensure sustainable utilization and equitable benefit sharing. Whenever you are just having or informing the authority or getting a permission, this is providing you a legal recognition and supporting you for just the custodian of the biological resource as well as the associated traditional knowledge. So that is why. And now, since your organizer, Dr. Indrani, who is a good friend of me also, she has specially requested me that people should understand and know how to exchange materials or what is the provision in the act, so that which will just help them in using the bioresources or doing research on bioresources or just having commercial use out of it and all. No? So I will go a little deeper into it. That under the section 2 of the it has very clearly mentioned what all things are covered by this: plants, animals, and microorganisms, or parts thereof. A small antenna of a small insect which you want to do research on that. No? So this is a biological part of the biological resource, so that also is covered by the Act, and their genetic material and byproducts, excluding value-added products. So this is a great question again. If you ask me, you tell me what is value-added product, this is a great confusion even now present. If you know what are the percentages used in perhaps Dabar is making Chyavanprash and all. No, there are a lot of biological resources being used, and these are the percentages. I don't think it is a value-added product which can be exempted, because you know what are the resources which is used, and these are the percentages by which it is used. Also, you use coconut for that is a biological resource, and when you just make it into coconut oil, you say it is a value added product. For us, it is a value added product, and it adds, when it becomes oil, value is being added to it. But since it is coming from a biological resources, that is not included as a value added product. So there is confusion, but there is a authority, or maybe people are there to just resolve these confusions also. And with actual or potential use or value, but does not include human genetic material. This is underlined. If you want to do any research with human blood, or want to exchange human blood or genetic material from humans, it is not covered under the Biodiversity Act. The main thing, if you are a researcher, if you have to study systematic investigation of a bioresource leading to taxonomy, or using the bioresource for any technological application, make or modify products or process of for any use / commercial use, you are covered under the Biodiversity Act. Then biosurvey and bioutilization, survey or collection of species, subspecies, genes, components, extracts of biological resources. Some people will tell, for a simple thing, no, there is a company which is present in Karnataka, because she especially wanted to give examples also. There is a Karnataka, they are collecting neem leaves. Neem leaves, they are collecting and exporting as dried powder of neem leaf. The argument was, it is a value added product. I am not sending bioresource. It is powdered and it is value added, and I am sending it. So extract, or maybe biological extract. There are a lot of companies in and around Bangalore which will extract biological resources, and extracts are being sent outside. Why all these things are happening, I'll tell you. And for any purpose, which includes characterization, inventorization, or bioassay. Bioassay, lot of people do research on biological resources or organisms and all. No, so till you come to a potential molecule which will maybe anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, so the research stops there. This is a potential molecule. At the most, you will apply for a patent, and you will get a patent also. But all the drug discovery and commercial use, which is happening elsewhere, mostly in United States and European Union, wherein either by way of ignorance, or by way of purposely, or by way of exchanging, the result will go to them, and they will come with potential use. And functions of NBA is regulatory, because grant approval to access biological resources and associated knowledge, and issue guidelines also. That is by way of guidelines supporting the biodiversity rules, because to make things easier. Advisory role it has got, because it advises state and central governments, and also decides on normally traded commodities. I think I have to, at this point, I have to give an explanation for the normally traded commodities. Maybe at one point of time, I am just keeping you all upright, or maybe alert, by just telling granting approval to access bioresources. This is what has happened in Karnataka. Because in Karnataka, they went to the state assembly, and then they have passed the act, passed the rules, wherein they have very clearly mentioned that those who are accessing bioresources have to pay access and benefit sharing, which means at the end of the day, and there are people who will interpret it also. At the end of the day, what happened was, even a small vegetable vendor who is vending vegetables has to pay, or maybe they were covered under the access and benefit sharing, which is not correct. There is almost 481 species which is given, or maybe it has been given as a notification by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Uh, they are the biological resources which is normally traded as commodities. Rice, wheat, tomato, because rice powder, this one, wheat powder, then tomato ketchup, all these are exempted. And there are some of the timber varieties also, which is used for making paper. They are also these. So when there is a problem, then only people immediately run to NBA and tell that, oh, you have to notify this as a normally traded commodity. Why? Because normally traded commodities are exempted. You want to go and buy some rice from market, and you are just accessing a bioresource. Do you have to pay access and benefit sharing? No. So when this has become like this, now then people come to running to an NBA. Now a lot of small issues are coming up. So you have to notify it as normally traded commodities, that is not covered under Biodiversity Act. And of course, they advise on threatened species. If somebody is coming up with, so we will go to the State Biodiversity Board, tell them, and then only we will help the ministry to notify it as a threatened species. And selection of biodiversity heritage sites. Because again, to support conservation, some of the heritage sites which is advised, this is where the advisory role comes by this. Then ITPGFRA, International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. Those coming under ITPGFRA is also not coming under the National Biodiversity Act. Then we have a facilitative role, that is the formation of the biodiversity management committees, documentation of the people's biodiversity registers. So all these are the functions of NVA. Now, what is being regulated? That is where people find out. Anybody, when it comes, the word comes under the purview of the word regulation, people get scared. Oh, no, this is not possible, or this is becoming difficult. So, what are the activities regulated under the Biological Diversity Act? So, the covered materials are biological resources and associated knowledge. I will again underline here, associated, traditional or contemporary knowledge also is covered under the Biodiversity Act. The regulating activities are access for research. I told you very clearly. Sometimes I will repeat also to make it very clear to you. Commercial utilization, biosurvey, bioutilization, IPR, intellectual property rights. When you are going to apply for a patent on a invention or invention based on biological resources, you have to approach, or you have to be taking a certificate that I have informed the National Biodiversity Authority, this one. Then transfer of research results. This is where the research, especially from the academia, have to be careful. You will be having collaborative programs and all, no? So you want to, of course, when you do collaboration, the results are to be exchanged. So transfer of research results also. So the Biodiversity Authority will screen, or that will put before a committee with experts. They will decide. It can be easily exchanged, or maybe they will put some clause. When it goes for commercial utilization, a small percentage have to come to the country. Then transfer of already accessed biological resources and associated knowledge. All these activities are covered under the Biodiversity Act. And who needs an approval or permission? Under the Section 3, two different, under Section 7 and Section 3, it is very clearly defined there. A non-Indian, non-resident Indian, or a body, corporate, association, or organization. So, which means a foreigner. A foreigner is there, not incorporated or registered in India, or incorporated or registered in India under any law, and any non-Indian participation is there in its share capital or management. So this again creates confusion, wherein we are trying hard for making it very clear, because some people say when you just open a share capital, or maybe this one, who takes the share, who knows? Whether a non-Indian takes a share or Indian takes a share, we don't know. So wherein now we are just telling, if people have in the advisory board a non-Indian is present, even now I think these people have to as treated as foreign entities, and they have to take permission. But for Indian, they also have to come under certain things, they have to take permission, which is registered in India, other than those who are not covered in under rule, under the section 332, they have to come to take a permission or approval. And what are the activities covered, and where you have to apply in NBA, and where you have to apply for the state biodiversity board. Persons, Indian nationals in a state, you are accessing resources or accessing for commercial utilization, you have to approach the state biodiversity board only. You don't have to come to National Biodiversity Authority. And NBA, foreigners, they want to take materials from here, they want to exchange materials, they have to come to NBA for taking a permission. And bio survey, bio utilization, foreigners, they have to come to NBA. I just forgot to tell one thing. For Indians doing research on bioresources or biomaterials in India, they don't have to take any permission at all. That is underlined again. They are doing, Indians doing research in India, they don't have to take permission. But if it is a foreigner, they have to take bio survey, because there are exchange programs and all. No, so when at least you have to inform NBA that they exchange, under exchange program, such a foreigner is coming under our university and he is doing on such and such, or maybe doing research on such and such material. That has to be done. Then bio survey, bio utilization for Indians also, they have to inform the state biodiversity board and take a permission, and others, they have to come to National Biodiversity Authority. Commercial utilization also, foreigners, National Biodiversity Authority, Indian state biodiversity board. IPR, whether it is an Indian or a foreigner who is taking a patent which is come from a biological resource present in India, all of them has to apply to National Biodiversity Authority. Transfer of resources also, NBA is the sole authority for giving permission. And third party transfer or access to the bioresources also, NBA is coming. Then of course, so I will explain this and then come to the non-Indian repository or claim of novel species, which I will come. So when it's now becoming very clear that two things, intellectual property rights and third-party transfer of research, NBA, whether it is an Indian or a foreign national, they have to come to NBA. And for taking a patent, don't think that it is a cumbersome business. You are just telling NBA, when it goes to commercial utilization only, you need to pay. I think only not even less than 2% of the patents which is achieved from the bioresources in India are now being utilized commercially, which means that you have to just give a certificate, and on that, again, this permission comes as an agreement. It is not a letter or maybe a receipt which is giving, okay, permitted. It comes as an agreement. So both party who is taking and also from where it is being taken, they have to agree. They will just tell that when it goes for commercial utilization, 0.1%, or depending on the merit of the bioresource, you have to give 0.1%, 0.2%, or 0.5%. How meager it is, you just imagine. And now again, coming to the deposition of microorganisms in a non-Indian repository for claim of novel species. If you want to publish, researchers want to publish a paper, you have to, and that is a new species which is described, you have to deposit the novel species in some repository. There are many repositories which is accepting this. So wherein this is facilitated by applying in Form C. they will not, there is not cumbersome meetings or putting into expert committees and all, no? So they will support you and they will give a permission for giving or sitting. But one small clause present in Form C is hindering many of the researchers, which when I was there, I tried to support or maybe rectify that also, because it is written that when this novel organism is being distributed elsewhere, they have to inform the country. So which many of the repositories outside, they are not agreeing, because they refused to accept such a clause for just for deposition, which means that our researchers are facing problems for the repository being given to a decent or maybe coming to a decent publication. They are just they are finding it difficult. And this Form C, just to support researchers we have made, it is not a part of act or rules, but under the ABS regulation 2014 we proposed and incorporated in the revised ABS regulation also, but we are trying to make it simplify it as far as possible. And how do you apply? There are online application forms which is hosted by NBA website, and the NIC is supporting it. There are 4 forms which is major thing, that is for accessing biological resources and additional traditional knowledge. Form 1. Form 2, again, foreign nationals, companies, NRIs for commercial purpose, they have to apply in Form 2, of course, both to NBA. Then prior approval of NBA, that is Form 3. It is very simple. Approval of NBA for applying for IPR. Now we have, because people does not know, even many of them, that they have to apply to NBA. So now the IPR or maybe patent attorneys have been sensitized. So now immediately when they are approaching them itself, they are asking whether you have a certificate from NBA for applying for a patent. Then Form 3 is the third-party transfer of the accessed biological resources and additional associated traditional knowledge. But if you say that it is time-consuming or cumbersome, there will be some emergencies, and that also I will tell an example. Papaya mealybug disease. It was an emergency in the country, so we have accessed it from Papua New Guinea. The biological material has come, and we have completely controlled the papaya mealybug disease, and we have saved, maybe we will, of course, ICR was claiming that millions and millions of rupees were saved by just controlling it and all, no? So such an emergency, Sri Lanka is asking India, now you have the biological control with you, again it is a biological resource, a small insect again, why don't you give it to us now? So we have accessed it. For that, nobody need to take any permission. But we have to give this to other country. You have to come for a permission. In such emergencies, Form B, which will smoothen or maybe for emergency purposes for taking outside India. So the NBA will support you for just taking it outside, either by Indian researchers or by government institutions. Then Form C, I was talking about the deposition of microorganisms by Indian researchers in non-Indian repository for claim of novel species. I will tell this once again. Now, Section 3 and 4 does not apply to certain collaborative research projects. Don't think that anybody who is taking outside, or because we have got dignitaries, President, Prime Minister, or many of our the chief secretaries and all, going abroad for discussions, leading delegations and all, they will sign treaties or maybe sign agreements wherein research also becomes a part of it. So if in such agreements, if they have signed an agreement and that comes under exchange of material of a particular plant resources or animal resources, then that you don't have to take any permission. That is freely. Only that you have to inform that I am sending it under this provision. Under Section 3 and 4 shall not apply for collaborative research projects involving transfer or exchange of biological resources for information relating thereto between institutions including government-sponsored institutions of India and such institutions in other countries. This I have taken from the clause itself. If such collaborative research projects satisfy the conditions specified in the subsection 3. What is subsection 3? Conform to the policy guidelines issued by the central government on this behalf and also be approved by the central government. Only thing is that NBA, National Biodiversity Authority, will ask you, show the proof for this is coming under the collaborative program. Then all collaborative research projects other than those referred in subsection 1, that is just before, which are based on agreements concluded before the commencement of this act, that is before 2002, whatever been the exchange and all, no, that also is not covered under this. And if people have access material and they are doing business now, that is not coming under this. Now, just again to explain, the section 5, I wanted to explain once again. If again, one more thing, DBT is awarding you a project. DBT and the project very clearly delineates, telling that this is I am using maybe millibug, papaya millibug, or maybe the bioresource which is obtained from a forest. This is what I am using it and all, no. So DBT does not know whether you are using it for commercial purpose or you are doing research or whether research results is being transferred and all, no. So now we have sensitized DBT, DST and such funding agencies also. Now they are trying to include one clause in their fund approval itself that if you want to take any permissions from any authority, you have to do it. So that no, they are also now trying to sensitize people that such a permission is required. Even though the act is passed in 2002 and now in 2021, not much or maybe a heavy jump or maybe much progress has been made. Even now, struggling to sensitize people or make people aware of this provision so that no, our bioresources are conserved or our people are being benefited. It is not bypassing any of the custodians of the resources. So if any research institution in India is engaged in its institutional capacity in a collaborative research project with any institution in another country relating to transfer or exchange of biological resources or associated information, it is exempted from applying for approval under this act, provided the collaborative research project is in conformity with the central government guidelines made in this regard. The central government guidelines are there in a notification that also I'll show you. The approval of central government is obtained under the above stated guidelines, and a copy of the approval so obtained has to from the central government has to be submitted to National Biodiversity Authority. So which is very clear, and this is the notification. Guidelines for international collaboration of research products issued under Section 5 of BD Act. This is the Ministry of Environment and Forest notification, 8th November 2006 itself. So please, you can go to the website. Then approval for, again, we are not terrorizing or we are not making you scared. No. Inventions which is based on research on a biological resource obtained from India or information, you have to apply to NBA. That is a very simple form which has to just get, and the permission will come as an agreement in which they say that whether this invention leads to commercial applications, it is coming under the provision of access and benefit sharing. That's all. The scope of the Biological Diversity Act is research, commercial utilization. I told you patenting. I am repeating biosurvey, utilization, transfer of research results, and transfer of already accessed biological resources. Functions of NBA: grant approval to access. One more very important thing is if the NBA comes to know by publications, or of course patents are also now in open for access and all, no. So if any of such bioresources a patent is accessed or maybe patent is granted abroad, then we can always ask those to revoke, and we will just give a opposition statement telling that they have not taken any permission from NBA, so we will oppose this idea. The facility is also exercised by the NBA. Then, of course, function. Then, why all this access and benefit sharing? So, a small percentage has to go to the people who are the custodians of the bioresources. Many of the forest products which is coming. So, maybe it has come to the notice of people that the use of these genetic resources bypassing the poor people, rural people who are actually vending or maybe collecting the resources and all. No? So that should not happen. That is why this access and benefit sharing comes. Just once again, categories of ABS application. So anybody who is accessing from as Indian for commercial utilization, now the state biodiversity boards also have initiated signing the access and benefit sharing agreement. Now, the process of application in NBA, on receipt of the application, the preliminary scrutiny will be there, and the details of access will be now immediately it will be asked to the State Biodiversity Board, and it will be placed before an expert committee for examination. So they have to certify that this is not threatened, this is not extinct, or it is available, or how much you can take it and all. No, and this recommendation of the expert committee will be considered by the authority for giving a approval. So then there will be, as I told you, there is a agreement. All permissions come as an agreement. So this will come to you first. Whether you agree, you will sign it and send it back, and the National Biodiversity Authority also signs, and this agreement is a permission for you. And now this benefit sharing and all, no, please don't think that it is a huge money which I have to set apart if I am doing a commercial utilization. So up to 1 crore, it is 0.1% of your ex-factory sale of the product, your benefit which you are accruing. Less than that, I don't think anybody will approve. So it is 0.1%. Up to 1 crore turnover. Up to 3 crore, it is 0.2%, and more than above 3 crore, it is 0.1% only. And there are certain things, no, repeatedly you don't have to take the material and all, no. So one time, 3 to 5% free, that the committee will decide. Free applicant will get a license for accessing one time. So it is either it is 3% or 5% of the no, I mean, research result, or maybe the benefit which they are accruing. And this is very meager, I wanted to tell. So that is why what is the benefit sharing component also I have told. And of course, now coming to the conclusion, of course, IT targets are there, and everywhere the 20 targets, India has summarized it into 12. That is India's national biodiversity target, and no target is excluded from the bioresources present. Present in it, which again means, of course, resource mobilization, ecosystem services, genetic diversity. For everything, you have to support, or maybe the Biodiversity Act has to be supporting. And the 17 global goals, the NBA goals is very clear, 1, 2, and 3, completely coming under the utilization of bioresources, ensure sustainable production, biodiversity conservation, especially life underwater and life on land, then global partnerships for gene banks, and access and benefit sharing. That is partnership for the goals. That also is covered. Sustainable development goals, lot of discussions might have taken place, so I don't elaborate on that. And now, what are the threats of biodiversity? There are certain things which is not under our control. For example, climate change, habitat loss, of course, over harvest, that is in our control, but I don't know how best you can implement it. In fisheries, we are now observing total ban for a certain period, for just so that the resource will rejuvenate. Then exotic species, invasive species which is coming, wanton, that is lantana, many of the organisms which is coming, which is brought as ornamental plants by the Britishers. They have now invaded and colonized our forests. Then, of course, pollution. It is again under human control. We can do that. Then natural calamities. Due to climate change, now there are a number of cyclones, incidences, and all. No, it is throughout in West Coast as well as in East Coast. The number of incidences have been becoming more. So the loss of biodiversity also equally is threatened by these natural calamities and climate change. In all these things, in responses to biodiversity crisis, the scientific analysis of and communication about the drivers of the change in biodiversity and human welfare. The students have the major role in this. Technological improvements by the academy and the researchers have a major role in this. And there is support of the legal and institutional instruments should be there. And there should be economic incentives also, which comes either from access and benefit sharing or by some corporate sectors. Corporate sectors will have a percentage which has to be invested, which now they are investing on. Of course, that is also sanitation and all, no? So that is also equally important, but they have to be also sensitized for using it for biodiversity or supporting biodiversity and social intervention. Unless people have participation in this, nothing can be possible. So social intervention should be there, and people's participation is also equally important. Now, under the National Biodiversity Act, the exemptions are the local people and community who will access the bioresource, they are free to access it. The growers and cultivators, whites and hakims, the traditional medical practitioners as whites and hakims, they are accessing any bioresources and making a commercial utilization. They are exempted. Biological resources normally traded as commodities, which is notified by the government of India. They are also exempted from under the Act. For research by Indians in India, they are exempted for accessing bioresources. Then access value-added products, certain value-added products. Here again the ambiguity persists. Then collaborative research, which approval of the central state government, that also is exempted. So other than that, suppose some small student who is ignorant of all these things, they want to send a small part of the animal or insect so that they can get it identified from the Smithsonian Institute. I regret to tell that they have to come and take a permission, because the small part of an insect, for what other people are using it, we don't know. Maybe the next day the whole genome construction will be available and in the for open access. So something which is present in India, which is not even characterized or not even being examined or not even used, so that will go abroad. So that is why they have to take an approval. Of course, the challenges we face, or maybe the National Biodiversity Authority face in implementing the Act, is lack of awareness. I will tell the correct understanding. Unless you do have the correct understanding, I will love to call it as lack of awareness. And people have got, the traders will have some other attitude, the industry will have some other attitude. Industry may not like to pay access and benefit sharing. Traders, they will tell that I don't know from where I have accessed the material, because it is all middlemen who is trading with the industry. So he will tell that I don't know where the access and benefit sharing has to be given. It is coming from many states, so I don't know. So the lack of correct understanding again is a challenge in implementing the Act in the country. Then lack of enforcement mechanism. Everybody is waiting for a case judgment so that no, I will follow that. So there are techno-legal issues, and no policing is now being implemented by the authority. So enforcement mechanisms are also there, and lack of ABS compliance by innovation sectors. That is the industry. So they also don't want to come under the compliance of the access and benefit sharing. Then sectoral issues. The agriculture sector will have a special type of difficulty or maybe issue, so that the authority or by the Act has to to monitor. So they have to do it. Seed sector have a different, pharma sector have a different issue, cosmetic section have a different issue. So all these people find it have got different issues, and generally you cannot tell, or maybe you cannot just make it easy. So when an issue comes, we try to look into it and make it simplify it, or make it easier for people to accept it. Then we need cooperation from stakeholders, which normally the authority or the state biodiversity board is not getting. That is, I was telling about middlemen, traders, self-help groups. Self-help groups has to help us for making the people's biodiversity register and tell that these people are taking away these resources from us, so we need to get a small share from it. Industries. Then under section 3738 for conservation, that is for getting the biodiversity heritage sites notified. I think 10% is the CBD is asking us, marine protected areas. We have not completed 1%, I should tell. Maybe 1.5% we have completed. And then, of course, in land, of course, we have got 6% they are asking. I think we have just come to 6%. So all these things are challenges for the authority, or maybe the challenges for implementing this one. But what normally is done is sensitizing through media, whether it is visual or whether it is by through papers and all. No, so make it simplify it and make it understandable, and write materials. And when I was there in NBA, we have started a newsletter. So, and this newsletter is being freely distributed to whoever is asking NBA. They are online. It is not hard copy, online publication, which is simplifying. Of course, there are a lot of issues are being raised, as stories are being given, how people are doing it and all. No? And there is a column. See, now cigarette smoking is injurious to health. Even you ask a small child, he will tell it. How? When you go to a cinema theater or when you watch a movie in your computer, first thing comes is cigarette smoking is injurious to health. It promotes cancer and all. No, so why don't we resort to such a mechanism, so that no people, everybody, each and everybody, a small child also will become sensitized about our resources. Or this sparrow is getting extinct. Whenever you are seeing it, why don't you just try to protect it? I think such huge propaganda has to come, so that no people will become aware of it. And of course, education programs, science academics, interaction with scientific community, we have done a lot of it, and that even now it is being continued. And catch them young, the small children. We have even conducted a painting competition on June 5th, last, when I was there. So that no, and we have given prizes also, cash prize as well as trophies, so that now people become, or maybe children become aware. At least they will talk about our bioresources, mosquito in my backyard. I think if people knows about it, I think we are very happy. And that is where we catch them young, and then give the conservation awareness to the small students. And the way ahead, I just conclude with this slide. Continued engagement with stakeholders. I think now what I am doing today is engaging you, and I consider you as a stakeholder, giving or explaining you what you have to do. Research institutions, government departments, academia, and look into the sector-specific training programs and awareness initiatives. Then United Nations and Development Program has got global project which will support it. And when you apply to them, they will also give grant, small programs in your university or in your government institution to support or conserve biodiversity. Then awareness to researchers, scientists, and the collaboration with DBT, DST, I told you. Now, when the fund is being released itself, they will give a small clause that you have to take a permission from the concerned authorities for conducting research on it. Then building capacity in different stakeholders. Now, the biodiversity management committees, state biodiversity boards, national biodiversity authority, they are not very much, there's a human capital is not much there, no? So there should be a number of people also to help them in spreading the awareness. So increase the additional manpower in various walks of biodiversity, outreach, special issues, newsletters, media, print, visual media, by way of slides in cinema theaters, or maybe small hoardings which is present in public places and all. No, each one of you can just and today what you have done, planting trees and all. No, I really appreciate, and I really congratulate and congratulate the vision of your vice chancellor in making the biodiversity grow more and more in your university. And like this, each and every one, at least on this particular day, gives a special attention or a special thrust to just our biodiversity, our bioresources, our environment. I think people will be benefited, and we will be protecting our future generations by just at least passing what we are enjoying to them also. I think I am giving some, this presentation will be shared to the organizer, and you can mail, you can visit NBA website. There is Facebook also, and a number also is given. You can call them also for any clarifications, any explanations, or maybe for any support which they would like to give to you. Once again, I thank you, Indrani, and thank Vice Chancellor, thank you, India Karuna Sagar, and all the other organizers, Smita, everyone, each and everyone, and the patient hearing. Thank you very much for that. And now I will welcome any clarification, any more clarifications I have to give, or maybe I can, or you can mail it to me. I will answer in whatever way I can possible. I can support you, and definitely I am there at your disposal. Once again, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for the very elaborate presentation that you made on a topic on which I think many of us are not well informed, though the word biodiversity is something that we are trying to inculcate in all the researchers, but it has to reach the public. My colleague, Dr. Smita, has been involved a lot with plants and issues such as biodiversity, speaking about it and encouraging the younger generation to, I think, get involved. But for researchers, which was, of course, the focus of your talk, it meant a lot because we do not know what are really the steps that are necessary before you get into a collaboration. Of course, when we submit research projects, we have always seen there is a material transfer agreement that we sign. But does that absolve us of all the responsibilities in the way we have to proceed? Because we do not want the Biodiversity Act or the MTA agreement to become a stumbling block to research. But you very well explained the need for that in order to protect the country's interests, your own interests. And the movement from the involvement of local to global was very, I think, informative. The GI tag, which has come about now, is one small way in which at least some local communities are protecting what belongs to them. And your talk also mentioned about how the local agricultural produce needs to be kept always protected, because it's very easy for any material to be stolen by intelligent people from outside the country. And therefore, protecting the country's interest has been the biodiversity department's priority. Towards that, you have also looked at seeing that there is no loss of biodiversity by harvesting a lot of plants or animals which have certain medicinal value, and therefore research has always been towards identifying the material, the active principles, so that they can be synthesized rather than, depleting the environment of a particular material. Some of the classical examples where even tribals were involved, you stated. For instance, the anti-cancer drugs like Taxol, Bryostatin were obtained by depleting the natural materials for a long time, which is why the Department of Biotechnology was supporting research where you could synthesize the products after characterizing them. Having said that, even though sometimes the artificial construction of a compound cannot match the natural compound, one needs to look at restoration. So while you deplete it, you also plant and have a lot of it. Oxygen was never as important as it is today. And our primary oxygen, I should say, cylinders are our plants, trees. And therefore, in your talk today on World Environment Day, we also see the necessity, of course, of having a lot of greenery around, because these are some of the ways to increase your inspiration of valuable oxygen into your lungs while expiring carbon dioxide. And plants, of course, are recognized as the best. We all know about, borders today becoming necessary only because the country has already in the past come across certain instances of our ethno-botanically recognized local material but being accessed by other countries and calling it their own, which is why today the country has made a repository of all the plants, animals, and the process will go on, including microorganisms. I cannot but fail to remember certain scientists who work on, of course, microorganisms. I think it was Craig. They bought about 5 kilometers of a beach area in a particular beach in the US only because all the microbes available in that area would belong to them, because they will be very important source of a lot of biotechnological products that they can get. And if that is the case, it is important for us to know and study what is present everywhere. So being a microbiologist, I have also been always interested in microbiomes. And study of microbiome is the diversity of microbes that are present there using molecular tools. And their biotechnological potential is as important as study of the biodiversity. So, madam, you have enlightened a lot on many of these aspects. And we see from time to time some of these issues coming up. For instance, near Mangalore in Kodagu, there was suddenly a lot of locusts that came in to those areas, in the hilly areas, and disturbed a lot of the agricultural produce there. Now, when such things happen, we need to know, of course, by source tracking where they came from. And we can only afford to look at it by developing all our knowledge on the diversity that exists everywhere. And therefore, the knowledge we already have is very minimal. There's lots more. It is as deep as the ocean, as vast as the planet that we have to learn about. I know there might be, of course, this is an oration, so I'm not expecting questions to be there. They will directly get in touch. But I would like to ask my colleague Smita if her microphone is corrected, if she has any question. But if she's unable to ask now, it really means her microphone is still not corrected, though she has been able to hear. Is the microphone corrected?
Yes, I think so. Can you hear me?
Can you please?
Yes.
She's Dr. Smita Hegde. She is the member secretary of the Green Initiatives here, and also, of course, the coordinator of our Technology Enabling Center, supported by the DST. But more importantly than that, she's a plant biotechnologist, and she is a jack of many things.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
But she is a professor at the Center for Science Education and Research. So with the primary job of being a researcher, doing these ancillary societal activities is very important for all of us, So if she has any questions or
Yes.
comments, I would be very happy. And please give, at least now that it's corrected, the vote of thanks. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's indeed a very rare opportunity for us to listen to the what to say, law straight from the horse's mouth. So it's really a very lucky opportunity for us to see such great authorities coming and addressing us on the laws, acts, etc. So many a times when we read these laws and rules, it's very intimidating. We feel that oh my god, am I going to get entangled in this legal process? So it acts as a deterrent sometimes, when if I'm given a choice to work on drosophila or on plant system, I will say plant system, I will think about later. Right now maybe I'll work with flies. So do you think that on one side it's very important to preserve national wealth, but when I saw one of your slide which says that Indian researchers doing research in India are exempt, I was very happy to see that. However, yeah, it was a relief.
But okay, finish it.
However, I have one question. For example, I have a project from state government to screen the local plants which are having the capacity to remove heavy metals. So I will be taking leaf samples of each one of them and analyze them for the heavy metal content in them. So I may not, what to say, destroy the habit, but I will definitely need a tissue sample of trees which are growing in polluted areas, trees which are growing in non-contaminated areas, and do a comparison. So all such kind of studies, whenever we find that suppose a plant is doing good, then if we are going to approach for a patent, then all these laws that I just saw are making me think maybe it's very difficult. So it doesn't even give us the courage to start somewhere. So kindly give us some courage.
Okay. Smita, thank you. Thank you for at least just mentioning that things are made simple.
Yes.
Karnataka, for that matter, is one state who I told you that is they have gone to the assembly and they have made state biodiversity rules, wherein they have clearly mentioned that for Indians accessing any bioresource, they have to need permission. And none other than the retired Professor Padmanabhan, IASC, he was asked to give an explanation for taking a patent for taking a patent in one of the bioresources, which IISc has done. He was telling that I was just my students were working and I was just heading the research team. But still, when he went for a patent, the patent was not given. No, he has already taken a patent which was opposed by our NBA.
Okay.
So, which means that people can misinterpret also. So, if Smita want to take tissue samples, that is, you are an Indian, taking some Indian trees, tissue samples, you want to compare, everything fine, you have done. And you have come with some novel molecule, or maybe you have come with a method.
Plant which has good capacity.
So it is good, and no, unless it does not lead to a patent, you don't have to take any permission. You can publish your report, but your study, and if it has got some knowledge which will amount to commercial utilization, which you will be sending abroad, then you have to approach National Biodiversity Authority. Or maybe you want to take a patent on some technological methods which you have described in your study, then also you need. That does not mean I am refining a cooker. That my cooker, I am an engineer. I am developing a cooker which will make my rice boil, or maybe it can come good as so that I can eat it within 3 minutes. Other cookers, it is getting 5 minutes. So I have to access resources. Many types of rices I have to put it and cook it and all. No, that does not mean you have to take permission from Biodiversity Authority, because you are accessing bioresource. So that is what the authority will be looking.
How long does a permission take, ma'am, if when we apply?
Now I think the process I have explained. So the expert committee will meet at least once in a month or something like that, or maybe now it has reduced 15 days or something like that. No, if an expert is present, so immediately the expert committee will meet. And normally in the committee meeting we will have about 70 to 80 applications which they will screen, and immediately either they will give or they will have to. Sometimes that application is not complete, we may ask for explanation, or we may ask for submitting more, I mean more information about it and all. No, so how fast you exchange your ideas, or how fast you reciprocate, that decides the length of the permission, length of getting the permission, time of getting the permission.
Yeah.
I can also tell in that this point of time, one girl who was very enthusiastic in doing research abroad, from ICAR, she has given a fellowship. I think she went to Australia. So as soon as she got the fellowship, immediately she wrote a research proposal, got it approved by ICAR or the Rajasthan University, and then went, and then going there, nothing. It is a very simple organism, powder push beetle. That small things which appear in our rice and all, no, that black insect.
Beagle.
Yes. So that she want to access and do research in Australia. And she just gives a mail, dear sir, she don't know who is the chairperson. So, dear sir, kindly give permission to access material, because now my university is telling that I need to get this one. So when the request came, I don't have to even see that request, but she was from ICAR, she has written to me.
Yeah.
I took the whole thing and then put it in the committee and telling that, no. So I said, madam, in that case, no, she is an Indian. She is not the person to ask. Her research guide, who is guiding her, mentoring her, he is a foreigner who is doing the research. No, he has to come to NBA and ask for the research. Her mentor refused. You have to bring the material. Why you didn't bring? Had she taking the powder based beetle from here in a bag and then taking, but Australia is very strict on that. Nothing would have happened. She would have been doing research also, but the whole thing was complicated. It took more than 1 year. Under my constant persistence, somehow finally she got permission to take the material from here. So she could have waited, she could have asked the NBA that this is the state biodiversity board also will tell this is a useless thing if she is taking, or if she is interpreting it, or maybe some commercial use comes out of it, then she can give access and benefit sharing, everything she could have done. But out of their eagerness or enthusiasm, hurry,
They don't want to lose an opportunity.
yeah, correct, authenticity. And you might have been knowing about the international fights we had for basmati and curcumin,
Yes.
just because, and it amounted years to get all the research documents to at one place, so that no, we can
build up the evidence.
Build up the material that it is from basmati is taken from India.
Yeah.
So, and ICAR has to struggle, the state has to struggle, and they have to give all the documents, supporting documents and all. No? So, if you have, when you take basmati outside itself, you have a permission with you, nobody, you don't have to ask anyone, no. We will certify that it is taken from outside, and anything, any commercial application which you are doing, it has to be coming
Most
under the
of the time
purview.
it is ignorance.
It is ignorance. That is why I gave more importance to awareness, correct awareness.
Yes.
And suppose the state biodiversity board chairman himself is telling that Indians, even if you are accessing bioresource and you have to take a permission, then can't help. Then we have to be
if somebody of Dr. Balram's stature is affected, who are we?
two states. I think now, but when they act, their rules have to be changed. Again, it has to go to the assembly. Assembly, when they meet, they have got more important issues to discuss rather than just making an amendment for this biodiversity rules. So it was postponed, and I think now it is settled. So now Karnataka does not have that rule with them. So I think people and Bangalore being the biodiversity board is there. Bangalore being the hub of research activities which is happening there. This has happened. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for clarification.
But madam, this is not specific to India, you know. I know
No.
of a DBT fellow, very senior person, who went on a fellowship to the US. He developed certain clones, which were very important. And when he was coming back with his clones, what he has worked with the strain he has taken, he was arrested at the airport, and neither his professor nor anyone could help. He was kept, you know. He's a microbiology professor whom we know very well. But other countries are also like this. We need not think that India, in fact, has woken up late to become like this.
Yes.
And I think when you make everyone aware that you have a resource that can be very useful, why let another country get the credit of it? You know,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
making rules to stop the progress of science is different from making rules to make that science worthwhile for yourself and for your country. So
Correct.
with that experience, I began to feel, no, we all come from a generation where we have carried cultures, we have brought cultures, but that has changed and we are happy about it. But as Smita also pointed out, and as you rightly said, if you educate us how to obtain it, how to quickly give the permission, that will make things easy instead of having a lot of spokes, because all the nefarious activities or all the wrongs that we do is because of the rules. Now, that girl who probably wanted to take, or girl or boy who wanted to take those insects, now you never know, there might be a very important defense molecule in that insect, because insects are rich with defense molecules. We have a biotic product finally that will come from another country where India pays through the nose for that product, you know. So I also feel now many things are becoming easy in our country also. The patent rules, everything. And we also, when they become friends of the researchers, rather than only being a corporate body with a stick, you know, and only pointing out cannot be done, because that happens in many organizations, you know.
True.
So I think things will change once you have people who understand the purpose, isn't it?
Madam, everything is being written in black and white and shown to you. It is very easy. And there are people who interpret in different ways. That is why an expert committee, which means that few heads are there put together, they will decide on this and all, no? So I think previously taking permission from NBA and all were taking a long time, but now it has become much reduced, I should tell, much reduced. I have experience in just giving permission in 1 week. So happened it has, they were very happy. And there is another group, and yesterday I got a message telling that this year's biodiversity award we are getting, madam, just because of you, because you insisted that before going into commercial production itself, you take the permission. So like that, no, things are happening. And unfortunately, US is not a signatory to CBD. So they can stop anything, they can permit anything, they can do. But I think the laws in US are very transparent and strict also, so that they take care of their materials.
Absolutely. That's why now we have so much of discussion on
because CBD, only 2 countries, 196 countries I was telling, 2 countries, a small city of Vatican, but again, they have not signed, and US has not signed.
Yes, US. That's why US
Big
can
brother.
be transparent. US can also be very political.
Yes, very political,
now you are
and they have got laws and rules, regulations and all, no, and they know how to protect their materials, or they have to know how to protect their resources and all.
yeah,
So that's the end of it. Yes.
the controversy over the virus is a
Correct.
stark example of the
Example,
US.
exactly. I don't want to. I don't want to poke my nose into such things. So I kept quiet.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so
sure.
much. Smita? Oh, she's maybe.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I thought you're in another program, that's why. So maybe concluding remarks.
Yes. It has indeed been a privilege to have you on a very special day like the World Environment Day. And the theme of this year is conservation as well. So it is, I read somewhere that it's only one planet that has life, and that is Earth. It's only one Earth that we have.
One Earth, one planet. Yes.
Yes, one Earth and one planet. And this is all that we need to conserve. And the rate of exploitation and overuse and indiscriminate developmental plans all definitely invite a whole lot of restriction and regulation, which is very well done by the Biodiversity Authority Board of India. So it's indeed very heartening to see that India has got such a strong act. Yes, that is protecting the laws and protecting the interest of the country. So it is very heartening to see in a very losing out world to see that India has made a stand. India has taken a very strong stand, and it is having regulations to abide by it. So it makes us very proud, ma'am, to see you in such a position. And we deeply appreciate the good work that you have done for the country and for biodiversity in specific. And we look forward for your guidance and help for us to take India to greater heights. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, madam, I'll be in touch with you if anyone needs it.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks for agreeing to my request.
Thank you. All my pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. You're as beautiful as ever, huh?
Oh no.
Nothing
Don't tell me.
from the time I'm seeing you after such a long time, but you're the same.
Okay.
I thought I'll also wear a sari, but then it's not being, I hope it's not getting recorded. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.